Sustainable human resources management represents a shift in how people perceive and manage their human capital. This approach prioritizes long-term sustainability, employee well-being, and organizational resilience over short-term productivity and cost control. In today's dynamic business environment, sustainability in human resources has become a prerequisite for sustainable performance. This presentation examines sustainable HR management through the case of Novatech Incorporated. Novatech serves as a meaningful example of how rapid financial growth can coexist with significant human resources risks. The case provides a concrete basis for why sustainability is essential for ensuring the sustainability of financial growth. Sustainable HR management integrates workforce planning, performance management, learning and development, and reward systems into a framework aligned with long-term goals. This approach recognizes human capital as a renewable yet fragile resource and requires proactive risk management, talent development, and institutionalized equity. In short, sustainable human resources management is crucial for organizations to shift from reactive personnel administration toward value creation, resilience building, and long-term institutionalization. The learning objectives of this study are to analyze Novatech's human resources management challenges by interpreting key quantitative and qualitative HR indicators and evaluating their combined impact on long-term sustainability, employee engagement, and competitive advantage, to assess the sustainability of Novatech's core HR systems, including workforce planning, performance management, training and development, compensation, and career management, and design integrated, sustainability-focused HR solutions aligned with organizational goals, and finally, to develop a roadmap for Novatech's sustainable human resources management transformation by recommending evidence-based practices that strengthen employee well-being, organizational equity, talent retention, and organizational resilience over time. Novatech Incorporated is a medium-sized technology company operating in software development, data analytics, and digital solutions. With offices in Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir, the company has experienced significant growth between 2020 and 2024. During this period, revenue increased by 65%. Despite this success, Novatech faces a fundamental paradox. Financial growth has not been supported by healthy human resource indicators. This contradiction makes Novatech an instructive example for sustainable HRM analysis. Novatech employs a workforce of 420 people with an average age of 31, reflecting a young, dynamic, and adaptable organizational structure. The fact that 92% of employees hold university degrees indicates a strong foundation of knowledge, skills, and learning capacity. This profile provides significant potential for innovation, flexibility, and responsiveness in a fast-changing technological environment. Nevertheless, the average tenure of only 2.8 years highlights a critical sustainability challenge. Even a highly qualified and capable workforce cannot generate long-term strategic value if employees leave before their experience and knowledge are fully embedded in the organization. From a sustainable human resource management perspective, true sustainability depends not only on talent and capability, but also on continuity, retention, and the effective accumulation of organizational knowledge. Although Novatech has achieved significant financial growth, this success is not adequately supported by its human resource indicators. Rising employee turnover and a short average tenure indicate that human capital stability has not kept pace with economic performance. As a result, financial gains remain fragile and difficult to sustain over the long term. In particular, talent losses in critical positions pose a serious threat to organizational continuity and knowledge retention. When experienced and high-potential employees leave, operational efficiency, project quality, and leadership pipelines are weakened. From a sustainability perspective, these trends increase strategic risk and highlight the urgent need to align financial growth with robust, people-centered human resource strategies. Novatech's employee turnover data is significant because it points to a critical sustainability risk for the organization. The data shows that 58% of employees leave within the first 3 years, and 35% leave within just the first 18 months, indicating that employees are leaving before their knowledge, experience, and organizational commitment are fully developed. With an overall turnover rate of 24% and a significantly higher rate of 31% in critical positions, the organization faces persistent disruption in key roles and processes. These early and frequent departures lead to a significant loss of organizational knowledge and a weakening of organizational memory. As employees leave before their expertise is ingrained in systems, teams, and routines, the organization becomes increasingly reliant on continuous recruitment rather than talent accumulation. From a sustainable human resources management perspective, this turnover dynamic undermines long-term sustainability, increases strategic risk, and severely limits the organization's ability to build resilient, learning-oriented structures. Human resource planning at Novatech is primarily project-based. Staffing decisions respond to short-term operational needs rather than long-term strategic goals. Workforce projections are not conducted systematically. This reactive approach limits the organization's ability to anticipate future skill requirements. Sustainable HRM, by contrast, requires scenario-based and data-driven planning aligned with organizational strategy. The employment and staffing outcomes at Novatech reflect structural inefficiencies in workforce planning and talent acquisition processes. An average time to fill of 62 days, extending to 90 days for critical technical positions, creates prolonged vacancies that disrupt operational continuity. These delays directly affect project timelines and reduce the organization's ability to respond effectively to market and client demands. Moreover, the fact that 27% of newly hired employees leave within their first year indicates misalignment in recruitment, onboarding, and expectation management. Early turnover increases the workload on existing employees, leading to work intensification and fatigue. From a human resource management perspective, this cycle contributes to project delays, operational disruptions, and a further escalation of turnover risk. The learning and development profile at Novatech reveals a limited and short-term oriented investment in human capital. Allocating only 0.9% of total personnel costs to training, with an average of 11 training hours per employee annually, indicates that development is treated as a secondary priority rather than a strategic function. The heavy concentration of training activities on technical skills, accounting for 72% of all programs, reflects an operational focus rather than a sustainability-oriented approach. Only 18% of training initiatives address leadership, career development, and personal growth, creating a significant gap in the development of soft skills and managerial capabilities. This imbalance weakens employees' long-term employability and limits the organization's internal leadership pipeline. From a sustainable human resource management perspective, neglecting non-technical competencies increases sustainability risk by reducing adaptability, engagement, and long-term organizational resilience. While technical competence is important, sustainable HRM emphasizes balanced development. Leadership, communication, and personal growth are essential for long-term employability. Their neglect creates a sustainability gap. Employees' negative perceptions exacerbate the sustainability gap in Novatech's learning and development strategy. The fact that only 39% of employees believe learning opportunities are sufficient points to a clear mismatch between development opportunities and employee expectations. Limited support for long-term employability significantly reduces employees' motivation to invest their future in the organization. Consequently, learning and development activities contribute very poorly to employee engagement and dedication. When employees do not perceive opportunities for sustained growth, development initiatives fail to function as a retention and motivation tool. From a sustainable human resources management perspective, this gap undermines both individual career sustainability and the long-term human capital resilience of the organization. Novatech's performance management system is implemented only once a year and relies heavily on managerial judgment. This severely limits transparency, objectivity, and consistency across the organization. The lack of clearly defined and measurable performance standards increases the perception of subjectivity and weakens trust in the system. This negative perception is also supported by key indicators. Only 46% of employees have written performance goals, 41% report receiving feedback, and only 28% believe performance outcomes are linked to development opportunities. Furthermore, only 34% of employees perceive the system as fair, indicating a serious breakdown in procedural fairness. From a sustainable human resource management perspective, a performance system that functions more as a punitive mechanism than a developmental tool seriously undermines motivation, learning, and long-term employee engagement. Novatech's pay and reward systems exhibit structural weaknesses that undermine their strategic effectiveness. The limited linkage between pay and performance, combined with the insufficient use of market benchmarks, reduces the system's ability to motivate high performance and retain key talent. As a result, compensation practices fail to function as a strategic lever within human resource management. Moreover, the perceived lack of transparency in pay and reward decisions significantly weakens employees' sense of organizational justice. When employees are unable to clearly understand how rewards are determined, trust in management and HR systems deteriorates. From a sustainable HRM perspective, these deficiencies create long-term risks by eroding commitment, increasing turnover intentions, and undermining the sustainability of human capital. Our sample company, Novatech, revealed significant shortcomings in its 2024 employee survey results regarding its compensation and reward practices. Only 32% of employees believe the compensation policy is fair, while only 29% perceive the reward system as transparent. These figures highlight a significant trust gap between HR policies and employee perceptions. Furthermore, 57% of employees believe there is pay inequality among individuals in the same position, severely undermining distributive fairness. Such perceptions erode trust in both management and HR systems, weakening employee commitment to the company. From a sustainable HR management perspective, decreased trust and commitment pose a critical risk to long-term employee retention and organizational stability. Novatech's career management and talent continuity practices reveal significant structural gaps that undermine long-term human capital sustainability. The absence of a formal and documented career management system, combined with a low internal promotion rate of 18%, limits employees' ability to envision progression within the organization. Furthermore, succession plans cover only 22% of critical roles, exposing the organization to leadership and capability risks. These weaknesses are directly reflected in employee perceptions and exit patterns. Only 31% of employees report being able to plan a long-term career within the company, indicating widespread career ambiguity. Most critically, 64% of high-potential employees who leave the organization identify career uncertainty as a primary reason for departure, highlighting a serious threat to talent continuity and long-term organizational resilience. The high turnover rate among high-potential employees represents one of the most critical strategic risks facing Novatech. The fact that 64% of departing high-potential employees cite career uncertainty as a primary reason for leaving indicates a systemic failure in career planning and talent development mechanisms. When future-oriented employees are unable to see a clear growth path, their commitment to the organization rapidly erodes. This pattern results in the loss of future leaders and weakens the internal leadership pipeline. As internal talent pools shrink, the organization becomes increasingly dependent on external hiring, which is both costly and risky in terms of cultural fit and knowledge transfer. From a sustainable human resource management perspective, this dynamic threatens long-term competitiveness by undermining continuity, institutional knowledge, and the organization's capacity to develop strategic capabilities internally. Novatech's engagement, ethics, and social responsibility practices reveal a weak and underutilized ethical climate. While employee surveys are conducted biannually, only 40% of the results are shared with employees, and only 25% are translated into concrete action plans. This limited follow-up diminishes the credibility of engagement mechanisms and weakens employees' sense of voice and involvement. Similarly, the ethical framework remains largely on paper rather than in practice. Awareness of ethical reporting mechanisms is only 38%, while only 33% of employees trust that ethical violations are handled fairly. From a sustainable human resources management perspective, low engagement and weak ethical trust undermine psychological safety, organizational justice, and long-term employee commitment, significantly increasing the risk of employee turnover and disengagement. From a sustainability perspective, Novatech's three main problems can be summarized as high overall employee turnover and elevated turnover in critical talent positions, erosion of organizational justice and trust, and the lack of a strategic career and development structure within the company. At Novatech, the high employee turnover rate, particularly in critical technical roles, poses a serious threat to project continuity and technical capacity. As experienced employees leave, teams constantly break down, and valuable information is lost before it can be fully transferred. From a sustainability standpoint, this continuous cycle of departures and replacements prevents the organization from building long-term strength and stability. Another critical problem is the weakening of organizational justice and trust. When performance, compensation, and reward systems are perceived as opaque and inconsistent, employees begin to question the fairness of decisions. Over time, this reduces motivation, decreases commitment, and increases the likelihood of employees leaving or disengaging from the organization. Finally, the lack of a clear career and development structure makes it difficult for employees to envision their future at Novatech. Without defined career paths and growth opportunities, even high-potential employees feel uncertainty about long-term prospects. This uncertainty causes talent to drift elsewhere, making Novatech a temporary stop rather than a long-term, professional development location. In the short term, 0 to 6 months, the transformation roadmap should focus primarily on rebuilding trust and creating a sense of transparency across the organization. Sharing current employee survey results openly signals management's willingness to listen and acknowledge existing problems. The establishment of emergency action teams further reinforces this message by demonstrating that feedback will be translated into concrete action. Together, these steps help restore employee confidence and create early momentum for change. At the same time, strengthening ethical mechanisms and clarifying expectations are critical foundations for sustainable transformation. Awareness training on ethical codes increases employees' understanding of their rights, responsibilities, and reporting channels, contributing to a safer and more accountable workplace. Defining transparent and measurable KPIs for each position reduces ambiguity and perceived subjectivity in performance evaluations. This clarity allows employees to better understand how their contributions are assessed, laying the groundwork for fairness, consistency, and long-term engagement. In the medium term, 6 to 18 months, the transformation roadmap should focus on integrating core human resource systems to create a coherent and development-oriented structure. Directly linking performance results to training and development plans ensures that performance management is no longer a standalone or punitive process, but a driver of continuous learning and capability building. This integration helps employees clearly see how feedback translates into concrete development opportunities. As a result, performance management begins to support both individual growth and organizational sustainability. At the same time, establishing a formal career architecture is critical for strengthening talent continuity. A documented career management system, supported by a clear priority for internal promotions, enables employees to visualize long-term career paths within the organization. Complementing this structure with a performance-oriented and transparent compensation scale aligned with market data reinforces perceptions of fairness and competitiveness. Together, these initiatives reduce turnover risk, strengthen internal talent pipelines, and create a more sustainable and resilient human capital system. In the long term, 18+ months, the transformation roadmap should aim to institutionalize sustainable human resource management as an integral part of organizational culture. Establishing structured succession planning and creating dedicated talent pools for critical positions ensures leadership continuity and reduces dependency on external hiring. This approach enables the organization to proactively prepare for future capability needs rather than reacting to unexpected talent losses. Over time, succession planning strengthens organizational resilience and strategic stability. The establishment of a leadership academy plays a central role in sustaining this transformation. By focusing on non-technical competencies such as leadership, communication, decision-making, and change management, the organization invests in the long-term effectiveness of its current and future leaders. Integrating key HR indicators into annual sustainability reports further reinforces accountability and transparency. This reporting practice signals that human capital is viewed not merely as a cost, but as a strategic asset essential for long-term sustainable performance. As Novatech's experience demonstrates, financial growth alone is insufficient to ensure long-term corporate sustainability. To move beyond being a temporary stopover for talented employees, the company must adopt an integrated human resources management framework where performance appraisal, career development, and transparent reward systems are strategically aligned. Strengthening distributive and procedural fairness is essential to address perceived wage inequalities and rebuild trust weakened by subjective appraisal practices. Through these improvements, Novatech can protect critical organizational knowledge, strengthen corporate memory, and increase employee engagement. Looking ahead, the proposed transformation roadmap represents a strategic shift from short-term, project-driven planning to a holistic and sustainable HR model. This transition requires strong and visible support from top leadership to ensure consistency and cultural adoption across the organization. By systematically investing in human capital as its core strategic asset, Novatech can build resilience in an increasingly volatile technology sector. Finally, integrating human capital indicators into annual sustainability reporting will foster accountability, demonstrate long-term commitment, and provide a sustainable competitive advantage for the future.